Many of us have been working through a lot of layers of wounds, of limitations, of dismantling fears, trying to align more with being comfortable and confident and free of the fears and the difficulties that hold us back from shining in our light or speaking our truth or just being at peace throughout our day. I'm going to talk about the persecution wound and where this came from and how it affects us in our present day. Maybe you have heard of it before, but I'm going to talk about where it came from and how it affects our functioning on many levels and how to also work through it and why we also need to address this specific topic. So the persecution wound is basically trauma, beliefs, difficulties that are embedded in our unconscious, in our cellular structure, in the core of who we are on a deep level based on past life experiences, based on ancestral trauma, based on societal imprinting. So we have many different factors that play into this conditioning or into these beliefs and emotions that we all carry on some kind of level, some more than others. Now, if you are, for example, a healer, a seeker, a searcher, someone who has almost a mission or a calling to help others, or maybe you have just a natural born gift to maybe even be in nature, to garden, to work with plant medicine, whatever it is, there could be some kind of wound that's attached to it that may be limiting your capacity of feeling totally comfortable and safe doing what you're doing. Now, safety can be found in the privacy of your own space, of your own home. However, for some of you out there, if you're wanting to move out of the safety of your own space, and maybe even being in the safety of your own space may trigger some feelings and emotions and these beliefs. But definitely if you're moving outward into public or into a bigger environment, then you very well could be met with most likely deep, deep fears that can completely sabotage your path, that can hold you back or can create great disruptions in the flow and the feeling of safety and trust with what you are wanting to do and with who you are. So the persecution wound, as I mentioned, can be passed down through ancestral trauma, again, from past life experiences, incarnations, and come from experiences of witch trials, inquisitions, exile, ostracism, all of these very difficult memories that we carry on a very unconscious level. And back then in history, and truthfully now, we still have some of the same behaviors that are playing out, maybe in different ways, maybe still in some cultures, very extreme ways. But even in our modern society here, we still have persecution playing out in different ways. If it is through ostracism, shaming, even in different types of ways on social media, for example, there is a lot of very subtle and very emotional or psychological, manipulative or direct ways of harming others through these modes of, again, shaming or accusing or ostracism, and is being thrown out left, right, and center. These are almost the byproducts of the extreme persecution acts that have been part of our society and are still part of our society in different cultures worldwide. And in our modern society, as I mentioned, we're still dealing with the remnants of some of these more extreme examples of persecution in our history and still in some areas in the world. So as I mentioned, persecution wound can be brought into our system, into our unconscious from many different avenues. One is going to be through ancestral trauma. So embodying the beliefs from our family, taking it on energetically, emotionally, psychologically, through past life incarnation. If you are exploring your past life experiences on Earth, for example, then you very well probably most likely will run into some of these stories with your own soul's experience. And then also, of course, the societal impacts of what's happening even today, even in certain cultures in the world, still deal with levels of persecution on extreme levels. But we're all connected. right? We're all connected. We can all feel on some kind of level. We deal with the societal impacts of different societies, even from across land. We deal with many of these byproducts of the certain behavior, but especially historically. So even you on a personal level, if you are, as I mentioned, stepping into the role of being a healer, a teacher, a guide, working with plant medicine, a herbologist, a naturopath, then most likely you may have to go through the levels of finding your confidence and your voice and stepping into more of your power. And in many ways, we are welcomed more now in society. Back in history, historical times, people would get punished for it. They would be tortured. They would be killed for having interest in plants and herbs and studying the stars and feeling deeply. They would be called witches. They would be called demonized, and they would be tortured, as I mentioned. So we have moved along in some regard, but we're still far away from where we could be and can be and where we're going. So we're in, right, I feel, this middle point here of evolution in this regard, where we're breaking through patterns of the past, even though in society, in some societies, cultures, there still is a very heavy dominance of limitations and restrictions on what people can do, what people can say, and how people can live, and their interests. In some cultures are very suppressed, but in our modern society, more modern cultures, more, I guess, a little bit more liberated cultures, there's freedom of talking about it, but in some ways, there still is the fear of oppression. There still is the fear of shaming. There still is the fear of judgment. And those fears run very, very, very deep. Yes, there are people who criticize and judge who exist out there, and there will be for a long time, but it is up for us to work through the barriers and work through our own wounds to step more into our power. And I just did a video of Neptune and Aries. We are going to be called more and more and more to do so. So this is the natural progression of us moving into that path and becoming more confident with who we are, be more confident with what we are and what we believe in and what we're passionate about. But we do have to address these layers first in order to break through them and to step more and more and more into confidence and sovereignty and power. And power, I mean our true power, unshakable power. This comes from our highest, greatest level of being. So as I mentioned, these wounds, these experiences live in the unconscious. This is very, very deep. So it can affect us from public speaking, definitely affecting our voice. It can affect us from stepping into a role of leadership. It can affect us from having our own business. And it runs, again, very, very deep, where we may not necessarily say this. We may not necessarily say, I have persecution wounds and I remember my past life experiences and I remember this happening to me when I was this age. It doesn't have to exist in that context. It exists in how we feel and how we are operating and the choices that we make and how much we're showing up or how much we are holding ourselves back. Those are the end results that we need to pay attention to. And then when we understand our behavior of how we're acting, how we're limiting ourselves, what's getting in our way, or how we're becoming sabotaging ourselves or playing small, then it's going back to see, well, what is actually causing it? What is actually holding me back from fully being in my voice and being vibrant and just going for it? The manifestations in our modern life will show up as fear of being judged, canceled, or misunderstood, suppression of one's voice or truth, especially spiritual or intuitive truths, staying small, over-explaining, or playing it safe, people-pleasing, fawning, or hypervigilance, resistance to sharing intuitive, healing, or esoteric knowledge publicly, self-sabotage when approaching success or leadership. Collective layers of the wound will be prevalent amongst healers, empaths, intuitives, artists, and teachers. This is part of the feminine wound, regardless of gender. Fear of being seen in emotional, sensual, or mystical power. This is also carried through in spiritual communities. Many have experienced lifetimes of being punished for knowing, sensing, or healing. So you have to remember, going back into history, this is really good to go back and understand the patterns that have been carried through into today, into our modern society. And a lot of these old paradigms are becoming dismantled, are becoming confronted, and are becoming questioned, which is fantastic. It's about time, but we still have a long way to go. But for ourselves, the best work that we can do is focus on us, focus on how to return to our power and strengthen our voice, strengthen our feminine energy, both men and women, but mostly women, right? And I do feel that, well, actually, I saw a couple videos and a few people talking about how we are all going to be able to heal the world is returning to more of the feminine archetype, feminine energy, the emotions, the sensuality, the love, the nurturing. And there's a huge imbalance. And I'm going to be talking about it in a different video. I actually have a podcast guest who's going to be showing up soon in April, the next month that I'm recording this video. We're going to be talking about all of this because the relationship dynamics between men and women have become completely distorted and skewed. And that's a whole other topic altogether. But in order for the world to heal, the feminine needs to heal. The woman needs to rise up and regain her power with herself as being a nurturer, as being a healer, as being a seer, as being sensitive, as being caring, as being empathic, being intuitive, and strengthening it and feeling safe doing so. And when that happens, then the outside world is also going to respond to that. Men will respond to that. The world's going to respond to that in many, many, many ways. And so this has been the imbalance for such a long time, and it's still happening today, where women are angry at the patriarchy. They hate men. They become very angry. They're holding on to history, hundreds of years of oppression in their body, in their cells, in their unconscious, and it comes out in many different ways. And so we need to understand this to heal ourselves and to return to forgiveness and compassion and focus on rebuilding the relationship within. And this whole exercise of understanding these patterns and this persecution wound is truly coming back to a sense of safety. And the safety aspect is going to take quite a bit of time because there are many layers to this. This is very multidimensional in many regards, but it all is going to come down to the point of how one feels in their body, how they feel within their body, feeling safe and secure and calm, feeling safe in their environment, feeling safe with who they are, their voice, and feeling safe with others. And of course, feeling safe with the universe, the greater context. So there are many layers to this. And if this is resonating with you, try to work on a micro approach daily to integrate safety within your body, to integrate safety within your space. And if you're feeling off center, if you're feeling unsafe or in fear, or something is going to happen, or something will get taken away, or you might lose everything, or you might end up in the worst case scenario, bring it back and know that everything is okay. Integrate the feeling within your system. And then your thoughts, your emotions, your behaviors, your perceptions will start to shift to become more aligned and feel more safe. And therefore, everything that shows up outwardly, your emotions, your thoughts, your actions, your words are going to resemble how you feel within yourself, right? So this is going to be a very crucial exercise, is returning to safety. And then, of course, the other components that follow. Speaking our voice is one of the biggest challenges I run into with other people. I have had to work on myself, and I see it in society. I see it with a lot of people. Our voice as a collective has been extremely oppressed. Our voice has been suppressed, repressed. We have lived in oppressive cultures and societies. Therefore, we have lost our voice. And our voice is one of our greatest powers, So there are a lot of thyroid issues. There are a lot of coughing and throat issues. If you experience any of that, this could be why. There could be a reason here, or at least be open to exploring the reason. How comfortable do you feel expressing yourself? How comfortable do you feel talking in front of people, or maybe a YouTube channel or a podcast or something of that nature? There's going to be an indicator there, if it's resonating with you, that there could be a layer to work on to return to more confidence and safety and empowerment with your voice. Now, I've been working on this for years, probably a good 4 to 5 solid years of this specific type of work. So I know it very well, and I know it well when I come across it. And this is something that we all can grab hold of to return to our voice. And this doesn't mean that you have to jump out and be a public speaker or start hosting events, not at all. It's just for you to free yourself so you can feel comfortable and safe and free within you. The invitation right now is to heal, to reclaim safety and visibility, slowly expand your capacity to be seen in your truth. Speak your truth anyway. Healing happens in the doing. Now, one of my specialties is understanding the shadow and diving into the unconscious and unraveling our shadow aspects, our false beliefs, the fragments that reside within our unconscious that drive these limitations and restrictions within ourselves and within our life. So it's important to remember that there are a lot of valuable insights and a lot of value to be learned and to be strengthened within yourself based on your experiences of growing through the persecution wound. The persecution wound is not just about fear. It's a threshold into personal power. When healed, it opens the door to embodied truth, magnetic leadership, soul-aligned impact, and unapologetic self-expression. When you have worked through your persecution wound, if you want to call it that, when you've worked through it, you become more empowered because you have just triumphed one of the greatest barriers to your true self, to accessing your true self. It is a massive win. And not only are you going to feel more empowered, you are going to be able to help others from a greater capacity. You can relate, you can share stories, you know how they feel in the situation they're in, what they're grappling internally, and the way out. So if any of this resonated with you, know that we are in a time right now where we get to set ourselves free. And there are many layers and many dimensions to this. This is an exercise of self-inquiry, of self-awareness. Be compassionate with yourself through the process and tune inward. The inward journey will lead you to the answers to break through patterns, to find your strength, to empower your voice, and to set yourself free. And of course, you're welcome to join the Shadow Project. There is a link in the description area below this video where we will be diving into micro approaches to uncover these unconscious limitations and fears that reside within to align with our greatest truth, our voice, and more. Right. So I hope to see you there, and I'm wishing you all the best on your journey and beyond. Take care.